Dear friends, we gather this morning to remember the life of one who filled our world with his love, his goodness, his spirit and example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. At times of shock, of grief, of sadness, and of difficulty, our people found comfort in these words. I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where comes my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and of earth. Sinai, El Harim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains, from where will my help come? Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh shamayim v'aretz. My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and of earth. Sinai, El Harim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. Sinai, El Harim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri. There will be many reminiscences and stories shared today, but the memory I will cherish most, and which I think only I have in a very certain way, except I share it with the rabbis, is the image of Milt and Elaine coming down the center aisle of Fairmont Temple Sanctuary. I see them at this moment walking in. Elaine was always first, elegant, beautiful, a smile illuminating her face, and Milt followed, clearly, with eyes only for her, only wanting to sit with her, to be with her, and both of them very content and happy to be at Temple. Sometimes family joined them in the row next to them, always right about there, on my right side, on the right side of the center aisle, very close to the front. But whether family was there, they were always delighted. And if they weren't, they were perfectly content to be with each other. It is part of what makes this such a shock. Both Milt's passing and Elaine's illness makes us pray so fervently for her, because they are so vivid, so alive, and so present in our memories.
I invite you now to please join me in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. With the setting of the sun tonight, the Jewish festival of Sukkot begins. And it isn't that how the world turns? When one light descends, another light is born. The rhythms of the Jewish year bring us through the days of awe, and we pray that we are once again written and inscribed for at least one more year in the book of life. Immediately following Yom Kippur, the Jewish calendar plunges us into Sukkot, the festival of booths. As with so much of Jewish ritual, building the sukkah, the temporary booth, there are lessons, for sure. And this booth is a dwelling for us to remain inside, to feel protected underneath God's shelter. And today, we shelter underneath Milt's memory. We remember the blessings he shared with each one of us. And as Cantor Sager mentioned, there are some friends and family who want to share some stories of Milt. And we're going to begin with Milt's very, very good friend, Stanley Rosenblum.
I feel very privileged and honored to have this opportunity to speak about my friendship with Milt. Milt and I met when we were about 10 years old, 74 years ago, when my father worked at the theater owned by the Weinsteins. We've been best friends ever since. We both went to Patrick Henry Junior High. I lived far from the school, so he and his mother let me come to their house for lunch every day. I brought my own lunch. They gave me a drink and good dessert. When we went to different high schools, we still remained close friends. After high school, Milt worked and put himself through college while I was in the Navy. Even then, he drove to visit me in Norfolk to spend the weekend with me. When I got out of the Navy and came home, we continued our close friendship. He arranged for me to meet my wife, Beth, on a blind double date more than 60 years ago. Milt was a self-made man, putting himself through college and law school while working and living with his grandmother. Milt and I were always there for each other in good times and in bad. We traveled together and enjoyed lots of ball games, picnics, dinners. Riding in his blue and white Ford convertible, playing with your dog, and many special family events. I always considered you like a brother, Milt, and Elaine were part of our family. Milt, my dearest friend, I will miss you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Stanley. Marcy, David, Aaliyah.
That was beautiful, Stan.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to thank everyone for coming here today to share this difficult time with us. Dad, we are totally in shock that we are here today standing in front of all our family and friends, as the last chapter of your book was not supposed to play out this way. You were the most organized and planned person we know. You went through life with integrity. You were a planner who loved spending time with your family and friends, making pioneering decisions along the way. From starting a successful accounting practice, being the first of your friends to move to Beechwood, traveling to exotic places, purchasing collector and fancy cars, Buying a condo at Boca West in the 70s, this last part of your life was totally unexpected. Although the diagnosis of kidney cancer scared the shit out of you, you bravely faced the road ahead and were the perfect patient, following all the proper protocols to fight this battle. From never missing an appointment, being diligent and timely with your meds, you were on a good trajectory. You had more time and your life was unfairly cut short by an adverse reaction to the immunotherapy drug that was to give you more time with us. Wait, that's me. Your longest and greatest... Do you want to read it?
That says D.
Oh, sorry.
She's cutting me off. Your longest and greatest chapter was one where you met Mom. Actually, Ariel, the last couple months was meeting with my dad, filling out a book about his life, and it was always very painful for him to fill it out because he's like, don't watch a TV, I want to talk to you, I want to know about your life. And one of the questions was, what do you think about, what was your greatest thing in life? It was like meeting my mom. Said Milt Weinstein, that was his greatest moment. Although the two of you were quite different, you're extremely organized, punctual, an avid reader, leader, planner, motivator, witty. Mom was talkative, unorganized, untimely, caring, sweet, unselfish, and lovable. Somehow these differences caused you two opposites to attract.
We know you were hoping for more time with Mom, even though she's still fighting for her own life right now, and it has been a tremendous hardship for all of us for the past 6 weeks. Life doesn't seem fair, and we have reached the ultimate test, having both parents critically ill in the ICU at the same time. However, one thing we both know is that we are so grateful and proud to have called you our dad for over 50 years. You have been such an inspiration, role model, and wonderful provider to us and to our children.
Yeah, we just can't believe that within 1 week after having dinner with you at Paladar, which he actually complained, why are we going there? Marcy, you know I don't like this place. David, let's go to the Brazilian all-you-could-eat meat. Let's get as much lamb chops as I could eat. Your mom's in the hospital. She doesn't need to know I have all this cholesterol. Oh, my God. You're no longer here today with us. How can life change in an instant? When I think of you, I think of all the years of playing catch in the yard, you managing our little league team, imbibing the team with Dairy Queen for a win, playing ping pong and backgammon for money on vacations. I remember you taught me how to use the doubling Cuban, and I lost a lot of money, and you forgave my gambling debts. I was really stressed out about that. How am I going to win back that money? I remember all our family vacations, especially during winter, and coming back to cold, snowy Cleveland with a tan, and all my classmates asking, where did you go this time? I remember laying on the couch watching TV, Get Smart. This is going to age me. Green Acres, the Carol Burnett Show, and Sonny and Cher. I remember our trips together, just you and I, getting on a boat, traveling through 1,000 islands and Lake Ontario, traveling throughout Europe, Eastern Europe, when I worked there for a month in Poland, and trying to find out where our grandparents came from. I remember our cross-country trips that we drove together, and also you drove me in the Audi to Los Angeles for my first job. There were so many great memories of you, and I miss you so dearly. I always love you and appreciate what you've done for our immediate and extended family.
When I look back at my childhood, I feel very fortunate to have always felt safe, loved, and encouraged to be a kind, responsible, loving, and honest person. My childhood was filled with wonderful memories of traveling across the United States with our family, exploring the sights along the way. You always plan vacations during winter break to warm destinations due to your love for the warm weather. Toronto was our stable summer getaway. My friends were always envious of our travel plans. You were my tutor in all my math subjects and was so happy to help. You loved your Indians, and we shared many times watching the tribes play. Your encouragement and support guided me all through my life, pushing me to graduate with a business degree at Michigan so I would not have to sell hosiery at May Company. I was your little angel and could do no wrong, unlike my brother here, who was known to bite doctors, hit kids, and get called into the principal's office on a regular basis. You even threatened to put him into Belfair for troubled kids. Thankfully, you and Mom put him on a good path. My husband Brent was extremely close to my parents and cherished traveling with them on cruises and even an adventurous houseboat trip on Lake Powell last year. Those memories will be cherished forever. Most recently, his presence at my daughter's wedding was a highlight of his summer and probably of his life, and spending time with his resilient great-granddaughter, Sophie.
We know you have been in tremendous pain in the last week, and we're struggling to understand what the hell is happening to you. I was lucky enough on Thursday night to spend some time with him and watch the Browns win the first game in 635 days. He normally would care, but he didn't care because he was in a lot of pain. We also were struggling to help you to be comfortable, which was so difficult. We know you are in a better place, and we'll always think about what an amazing father you've been to us and how you have touched the lives of so many others. As our dad, you always say, I'll see you when I look at you. You will be greatly and forever missed.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Milt's sister Adrian and his niece Ricky. They'd like to share a few words.
As you heard, I'm Milt's sister, his only sister, his baby sister, he used to call me. This is my daughter, Ricky, and she's going to read a poem from my son, Michael.
My brother Mike, the past couple years, has taken to writing poetry. We wonder if our grandfather, who wrote poetry, somehow is channeling it through him, because my brother never could write. Anyway, he wrote 2 poems, and the first one was as soon as he found out that both Elaine, my uncle and Aunt Elaine and Uncle Milt were ill. 2 souls who forever connected together need prayers and our love. Watch over them. For he will from above remember the past, the ones always late. Never though mattered, she came, no debate. Seems not long ago, we just heard, Elaine, hurry, time to go. It now seems silly to hurry for time, both fighting to stay, both intertwined. Pray for them now, let's hope that somehow he will hear his warmth forever, will always keep near. If it is time they must go, help them, then slow, to a place they will be, together to see, and then once again she'll be late. This time as always, his love for her will be no debate. And then the other night, after he found out that my Uncle Milt had passed away, he wrote this one. Sadness befalls, for another now calls, taken from us, don't know why or because. In a better place, Uncle Milt once again, a smile upon his face, maybe by chance, will walk once again, to find a rib ranch, a sister will call miss you, a wife will so too, now watching over all you who you love, so sorry you're gone, your pain though's been long, goodbye Uncle Milt, we'll try not to wilt, our love never will cease, please be happy, keep us safe, and forever, now rest in peace. The referral to the rib ranch is there was a rib place in Southern California that every time they would come visit, he would insist we would go there. And one of the times we all said, no, we're not going to the rib ranch. Well, my Uncle Milt and my brother Mike refused to sit down and eat where we were eating. And in the middle, before we even ordered, they both got up, they looked at everyone at the table, which was about 15 people, and they said, we're going to the rib ranch. And they got in the car and they left the whole dinner party. So In Uncle Milt's casket, everybody put different things. And my brother's like, well, you need to put some ribs in there. And I'm like, we can't do that. But anyway, so.
We'd like to invite up Milt's grandchildren, and we'll make the note that Asher and Aiden, his youngest grandchildren, they are in California right now. They're David and Aaliyah's kids, but we know they're here too in spirit, and of course we invite the Garson gang.
Okay, hi everyone. Honestly, I'm a bit numb in terms of emotions of how I feel because literally I saw you 2 weeks ago and you were perfectly fine except for your cancer, which was relatively in check. About a month ago, we found out this horrible news of your cancer diagnosis, and I happened to be in a bookstore and saw a book titled My Grandpa and thought it would be a great activity to do with you to make sure that we captured different things about you that we may never have thought to know or ask. So every family gathering, I would attempt to fill out a few more pages, which I thought was a good excuse to talk to each other because we normally would just stare at the TV watching some Cleveland sports game. And even though deep down I knew he liked the activity, he would roll his eyes every time I asked him to fill out this book. But thankfully, oddly enough, we ended up basically finishing it a few weeks ago, as no one could have imagined what would have happened this past Friday. Some things I learned about him from writing this book is people often complimented him on his amazing memory, promptness, organization, intelligence, hardworking nature, and the fact that he could do a really good tax return. And when asked what were some of life's hardest challenges, he mentioned taking the CPA and bar exam and passing them both on the first time, which he noted only 2% did, and overcoming his father's death at age 12. When asked if he could go back in time and relive any moment, like my uncle said, it would be meeting Elaine. And for those of you who know, they definitely bickered a lot, but that was just really sweet when he said that. And lastly, when asked what some of his future dreams were going to be, hopefully in the few years that we thought he had, it was to go on an African safari, attend more weddings, have more great-grandkids, to make sure that he got better, to have Elaine finally call him on her cell phone, which we practiced for 25 hours, which never happened, and ultimately bringing Elaine home and healthy.
A week and a half ago, we were at the hospital having lunch, just him and me, and I remember being reluctant to taking him because I had a lot of work to do, and I'd set up a little workstation at my grandma's bedside, and I didn't want to be gone too much from work, and I didn't want to leave my grandma too long, but David nudged me and just told him to go take him downstairs, and so I walked him down to lunch. And at lunch, we talked about how he was feeling really weak and tired, and he had a new pain in his hip that he hadn't experienced before. But most of lunch was just idle chit-chat because we were both so preoccupied by my grandma. After lunch, we sat in the sun for a little since my Papa Milty loved the sun, and he wasn't in any rush to go back inside, and there'd been so many days of rain that he was just so happy to see it was sunny out. And so we just sat in silence on the stoop right outside the hospital, and his face was just tilted up to the sun and his eyes were closed. And it was the first time I'd seen him happy since my grandma went into the hospital. And I didn't want to ruin that, so I just sat with him in silence. And there are so many things I wish I would have said to him had I known it'd be the last time that we'd be alone together. I was so preoccupied with my Grandma E that I was just distracted, and I was probably really impatient with him. Who would have thought that within a week he'd be the one that was gone? So Papa Milty, if we could go back on that stoop, I wish I could tell you how lucky I was to be your granddaughter, and how grateful I am that you and Grams were such constant fixtures in our lives. You were there for every volleyball, basketball, track, and soccer game. every little silly school event and every major milestone. Summers were spent with you at putt-putt and batting cages and Indians games with Honey Hut ice cream afterwards, and sleepovers at your house where in the morning you'd make waffles and we'd go to Nordstrom's to buy Beanie Babies. And while you may have been conservative with your money, our Beanie Baby collection would say otherwise. You'd go anywhere and everywhere we were, from visiting us every year at our colleges, and even go to Europe when Ariel and I were studying abroad to meet us because you wanted to see where we went to school and where we were living. And more recently, it seems like you were over every time my mom was willing to cook a meal. And since leaving for college and after college, I can remember more dinner tables at our house with you than without you. And it pains me to think that we won't see you in your spot again. And the point is that you were just always there, and whether you said a lot or you said nothing, your absence couldn't be felt more now. And you were patient, at least with us you were patient, and you were loving. And you were caring, and you were so involved and thoughtful, and you were a great listener, and you were proud. You were so proud of us, and you would tell us all the time. I'll miss talking to you on the phone, and how even when you were in pain, you'd mask it whenever you'd talk to us, and you'd put on a sunny, light tone and tell us you were fine, and say thank you so much for calling, that it was the best part of your day. And you would always pick up on the first ring. It pains me that I never got to say thank you, that I didn't tell you how much I love you, and how much you meant to all of us.
Papa Milty, I'm so glad that you were able to be there to see me get married and meet your great-granddaughter. You got to hold her and hang out with her and got to be a part of her life, and she got to be a part of yours. I remember a phone call that we had. It was the Wednesday before my wedding, and you called me and you said that I didn't feel like I needed to talk to you at the wedding. You said, don't worry, don't talk to me. I know you're going to be super busy. And he just wanted me to say to enjoy it, and he knew and how happy he was that he was going to be there and to be a part of it, and how proud he was of me, and to wish us the best, not only that day, but for the rest of our lives. One of the best moments that I will forever cherish was when you and Graham saw each other for the last time, both of you in the ICU. The team in my grandma's side had the great idea to bring my grandma up to my grandpa's room, and it took a lot of effort for her, but she made it up there after about an hour. And while the two of you always bickered in private and maybe wanted to kill each other at times, you truly came together at the end. It took so much effort, but it was honestly like the scene out of a movie. You held each other's hands with everything you had and said the most kind and heartfelt words to each other. Even the nurses were in tears. You made me realize that the love you had for each other was so real and true after 57 years together, the kind of love that each of us hope to have in our lives someday. I know that your Elaine is going through a very hard time right now, but one day, and hopefully not anytime soon, you will be reunited again. And as David said, and as Papa Milty used to always say, I will see you when I look at you.
My dad wanted me to say a few words in honor of him. His commitment to family was unwavering. He may have been a father-in-law to me and a grandfather to my children, but he was so much more than that. He was like an extended father to me and my children. Milt never missed an opportunity to spend time with us. He and Elaine cheered on our children no less than Marcy and I. Milt and Elaine traveled the world with us, never missing the opportunity to spend quality time with us. And no less so when we were home did the good times stop, as the two of them were fixtures at our dinner table. Milt and Andrew had a special bond, enjoying talking sports and sharing pancakes together as their favorite breakfast hangouts. For me, Milt was a trusted advisor and confidant. More importantly, Milt was an inspiration to me and played an enormous role in my life as I chose to follow in his footsteps, becoming a CPA and a lawyer like him. As a young man, I used to go with my father when we met with Milt to discuss my father's business or taxes. It was these meetings that I saw the role Milt played in the lives of his clients that encouraged me to want to follow in his footsteps. It also was at these meetings where I used to look at a certain picture behind his desk and see his beautiful daughter and dream that one day I might date her. That's a true story and one that I've never shared before. Milt, I will see you again when I see you.
We need to take this moment and think of Elaine and the healing prayers we're sending to her. We're hoping that she's actually perhaps watching now. No, but we'll definitely get her the recording of this service, so she'll have an opportunity to hear all these beautiful words about her Milt. As we come upon Sukkot, which is about to arrive, we build this sukkah, this dwelling place of love. Dwelling place, sukkah, in Judaism, we have all these rules, all these rituals that we do. And it was perfect because Milt was also a rule guy. He was a bright and organized person. Perhaps rules and order were something he sought out after a precarious childhood. Milt's sister Adrian can attest to the upheaval in the family after their father Max died of spinal cancer when they were still children. Yes, Milt was 12, Adrian 7. Living in Cleveland Heights, Milt and Adrian worked hard to help their mother maintain normalcy amidst the storms. Milt's bar mitzvah was already planned, and so they went ahead with it. But everything had changed, and Milt had been very close with Max, and the loss strongly impacted him. Adrian remembers that he went to temple every day for 11 months to say Kaddish for his dad. And only a few years later, Milt dropped out of high school to work with his mother to help ends meet. Adrian, as younger siblings tend to do, looked up to her big brother. He took her to shows, guided her along, and even taught her how to swim. And despite the circumstances of a rocky time, Milt looked ahead to a life of fulfillment. He eventually got his GED, attending undergrad at Fenn College, and studied for years to obtain his CPA license while working full-time. And ultimately he passed the bar, yes, acquiring both on the first try. Yes, Milt was starting to build a life for himself, relying on his drive and smarts. He was building and structuring a life with a vision of having a family, living under a sturdy roof, as a husband, as a father, and eventually becoming a patriarch to a beautiful and growing family. We gather underneath the sukkah in joy, Zman Simchatenu. This is supposed to be the season of our joy. And yes, it is a mitzvah to gather with community, family, and friends underneath the sukkah. Milt's keen intellect and drive in pursuit of building a professional life had his focus more than pursuing a partner in life. But all that changed when he met Elaine, and legend has it that ice cream was involved in their first encounter. That is no surprise. Adrian remembers that her brother was pretty serious about this girl named Elaine. He was dating someone special. So much so that when Adrian got married, Milt declined to bring a date because Elaine, while logistically was unable to go, she was so special to him that he could not imagine going with someone else. Adrian remembers that Milt presented as a serious guy who did not have a very wide social life, but all that changed with Elaine. Adrian remembers how Milt sharpened him up with snappier clothing and started filling his calendar with outings with friends. And after they got married, Elaine dropped out of college to help Milt pay for law school, which he attended because his friends had decided to go. Of course, that's why you do it. Soon, Marcy and David enhanced their lives, created a beautiful family of 4. Marcy and David recalled how grateful they are that they were able to travel every summer with their folks. There were many trips to the Caribbean and abroad, an epic road trip all the way to California, and lots of games of backgammon. And yes, David, he never asked you to repay his winnings. And when at home, Elaine and Milt lived a traditional lifestyle. Milt worked hard, 9 to 5, and Elaine kept the home. There were the Sunday trips to Burton and Amish country, and jaunts in his beloved El Dorado convertible. He would later take the grandkids in it as well. And there were the little moments, like when they would all watch TV together. They both wanted the best for their kids, were particularly invested in their education. Milt would help the kids with their math at home, and Elaine would review their writing. When David and Marcy went to college, they were so proud. Charged them to not only work hard, to find an interest for which they had a passion, but also that they were practical with their chosen field of study and professional life. Elaine and Milt wanted them to know that they would always be loved, that their parents would always be there for them, while at the same time they wished to instill a sense of independence in them, a sense of responsibility, and that is clearly, evidently, that made an impact. Even when they traveled all over the globe, Elaine and Milt would always find a way to meet up with them. And as their family grew and gathered, Elaine and Milt increasingly felt blessed with the beautiful legacy they had brought into this world. It's important to say blessings underneath the sukkah. Thank God for all we have to show gratitude. It is a mitzvah. When eating and sitting down in that sukkah, you say those blessings, and blessings abound. Milt was Papa Milty to his 6 beautiful grandchildren, Danielle, Ariel, Andrew, Rachel and her husband Kobe, Asher and Aiden, and of course his great-granddaughter Sophie. When they were kids, they were blessed with trips to see Papa Milty's beloved tribe, especially on opening day when they got to skip school. And then, of course, the visits to Honey Hut. There were untold numbers of Beanie Babies for sure, trips to Disneyland, and Milt could revel in being a proud grandfather. Years later, he would tell them, "I remember when I could hold more than one of you in my arms." Milt would never miss a game or activity that involved his amazing grandchildren. And of course, there was food. Milt loved food. Anything sweet with butter or just delicious and indulgent. Butter pecan ice cream, banana cream pie, banana cake, Slyman's corned beef sandwiches, pancakes, trips to Blazin' Bill's, the Sussex Fish House, the Pancake House, Cheesecake Factory. Milt even had pined for food on the other coast. In Newport Beach, David and his dad would go out to breakfast to get his free senior meal, and of course these delicious chocolate muffins he coveted. And even in the house, sugar and ice cream was a staple, ever since Marcy and David were kids. There were the 3-gallon tubs of Baskin and Robbins ice cream in the freezer, and he had his eccentricities, like making sure he had enough ice in his drink at restaurants, always nudging the servers over and over again, and sometimes making a bad joke, like asking the server, "Guess what my name is?" They would say, "What's your name?" And he would say, "Crime." And he'd say, because crime doesn't pay. Oh, yes. He even joked with me. He even joked with me over the summer when he won a ride with the rabbi, that was me, in my 1968 Dodge Dart convertible as part of a temple fundraiser. As part of the deal, we would take a trip for ice cream. It was my treat. When I picked him up with Elaine and Marcy too, and Andrew met us at Mitchell's, right as I picked him up and he was getting into the car, he asked about the size of my car's trunk. I thought it an odd question until he followed up with, "Well, since you're buying, Rabbi, let's see how many tubs we can fit inside." And as much as we chuckle at Milt's love of food and ice cream in particular, he was happiest when he could indulge in eating with those important to him. These were his blessings. You're supposed to build a sukkah so you can see the stars in the sky. A roof, you'd construct it, but only partially, so you can see outside of it. One of Milt's favorite things to do, as was shared by Danielle, was to sit on the porch, feel the cool breeze, let the sun shine on his face. He loved the sun. It was there on the porch where he could read a Tom Clancy book, or the newspaper from cover to cover, or even access Facebook on his smartphone, something not every person his age was adept or wont to do. It was on the porch where he could count all his blessings, where he could think of another silly joke like, "I could never be a doctor. I don't have patience." Sitting on the porch, he could consider the impact he made on so many of us, how he drew people to him in his personal life, in his work life, the pride in his accomplishments as an accounting professional, in building up the firm Ferber and Weinstein, and how he pulled himself up from his bootstraps to create a life worth living, a life to which we pay honor today. Sitting on the porch, he could think about his wonderful daughter and son-in-law, Aaliyah and Brent, to whom his children found to be a life partner. He could think further about Brent, with whom he felt kinship since Brent was a kid, sharing that deep bond, the friendship he shared with Brent's dad, and his hopes that Brent would be part of his family, and the special blessing that Brent married his daughter. He could think about how amazing Brent has been in carrying the family along during a very difficult time when two parents are in the same hospital in ICU. He could think about those blessings. Milt, looking up, might think about all these things as he reflected on a life well lived. Perhaps sitting on that porch, feeling the sun on his face, or looking out at the stars, he could look back on the almost 6 decades of marriage to his bride, Elaine. Yes, they bickered a lot. And yes, they would each regularly push each other's buttons. But there was a deep love that was evident most recently when they met in the hospital. As Rachel shared, in the most unlikely and unromantic of places, in a hospital, it was there that a photo was grabbed of Elaine and Milt holding each other's hands. It was as if they had just started dating. Milt said, "You're so beautiful, my Elaine." Finally, Milt might imagine that recently, even though he was dealt a bad hand, as he liked to say, with his cancer, Milt would also know that he was one of the luckiest people on this earth for what he had accomplished. He would know that there would be a day, perhaps sitting on that porch, when he would no longer be here on this earth. And just like he did for his dad, he would know that his family would honor his life for blessing. Perhaps Milt is sitting on the porch in Olam Haba, in the world to come. And just maybe the sun is shining again. And just maybe he is smiling right now with his eyes closed, knowing that we will carry him with us forever. We will carry him with us each day of our lives, knowing that he is a blessing. Zichrono livracha. May Milt's life, his memory, forever be a blessing to us all. And let us say, Amen. I'd like to pause for a moment as we consider Milt's life and the piece of the puzzle that he brought to all of us. invite you to please rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim.
מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, אמצי מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וזוהרים, כזור רקיע מזהירים את נשמת מוטול בן משה ושיינדל שהלך לעולמו. בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרו החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Milton J. Weinstein, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
As we turn to the conclusion of our service, I know I speak for Milt and Elaine's entire family to say that they're grateful that you're here today. Immediately following the service, we will move to Mount Olive Cemetery for the interment. And then following the interment, family will receive friends at Marcy and Brent's home, 200 Honeybell Oval in Orange Village. Today from 4:30 and then 7 to 9 p.m. Tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday from 2 to 4 and from 7 to 9.